Hi, I'm Ben, and welcome to my submission for Game Studio, where I'm just going to explain my role in the LND 135 project, and my thoughts about how the project was handled and how I think I have performed during this module. But first off, I would just like to say that I have thoroughly enjoyed this module. I think it's taught me a lot. I can't speak for others, but I'm sure it's taught them a lot as well. And it's really opened my eyes into the difficulties of working in a massive team, especially if it's your first time doing it like we did, and it really highlighted some of the challenges that you wouldn't otherwise have noticed if you were developing a game on your own. Alright, without further ado, let's get into this. First off, I'm just going to go over the presentation that our team leader Agnes presented to us before we selected that we were going to do this game specifically. So as you can see, the game's called Life and Death Craft, or LND 135 for short. So the game overview, the game was meant to be based off of Street Fighter and Justice League, games like that. It's meant to be a 3D fighter game, simple controls, so jump, crouch, punching, kicking, abilities, and the rest of the stuff. And the game was meant to be created in Unreal Engine, and it was meant to be a low poly cartoon game. The Unreal Engine aspect of that was not decided until later though. That was just the initial plans from Agnes. So yeah, the gameplay, the core mechanics is that there's two players who control their respective characters, and then they're in an arena. The aim of each individual player is to kill the other player, obviously, by kicking, jumping, dashing and dodging, and then the person who defeats the other player obviously wins, just like Street Fighter and Justice League. So the game narrative is that there is 9 characters from 3 classes. You've got Light, Dark and Chaos. Players will be able to choose from these characters, and each character has special skills within their combat. So some may have special attacks, some may have special dodges, things like that. So then there was also meant to be different arenas. Again, due to time restraints, we only managed to get one done, but nonetheless, that arena does look very nice and it plays very well. So that's that, and now I'll talk about my role during the creation of this game. Okay, so the creation of this game was split into multiple weeks. Each week was given separate targets for different teams, but first, before we get into that, everyone within our class was split into different groups. So you had art teams, you had programmer teams, you had UI teams within programming, you had within arts, you had character creations and level design. You also had some students doing sound creations, and some students doing some other things. Some students was also float around, so some of the GitHub team would float around and help programmers, for example. And the same goes for some of the programmers. If they're on UI team, if the UI team didn't need them, they would come over to program and help us lot out. Okay, so next I want to talk about the general setup of the project and layout of how it was going to be handled, and then the layout of what needs to be done first and things like that. So after everyone had been sorted into their teams, basically we then created a Discord and a Trello page. The Discord was used for communication between team leaders, the individuals who are working in them teams, and then also management, product management. So that was Bryce and Agnes. And this allowed for clear communication between all teams. So programmers could all talk in their own little Discord group chat. Same with art team. Project managers could also have their own little group chat as well, and could also make announcements to the programmers and art teams. Then on the Trello board, that was supposed to be where we would track our progress throughout each week, marking down what needed to be done for each week, and then using colour coding we would then mark how far along we were with that using green, red and amber. This was later scrapped favour for an Excel spreadsheet using colour coding instead, just because it was a lot easier to use. Not everyone joined the Trello page, and it was a lot easier to keep track of what needs to be done, as everyone was familiar with Excel, and so they could easily edit one single Excel file rather than trying to add to the Trello page. And so after this, there was also discussion about what engine we should use. Should we use Unreal or should we use Unity? Majority of people selected to use Unreal. This is mostly because everyone had used Unreal to a somewhat extensive amount in previous modules, and then it was just a question of whether to use Unreal 4 and 5. Majority of people voted to use Unreal 5 as it was the newer engine, and they wanted to get experience using that engine. Okay, so next I want to talk about my contribution, but first let me just quickly mention my team that I was in. So to begin with, I was in a team of 2, it was me and Tyler, and then later down the line we got put into a team of 3, so it was me, Tyler and Tem. This was done due to productivity reasons, as not enough was getting done as a general group, as a whole for the class, and so people were put in teams of 3 to try and speed up productivity and get more things done. So yeah, but in that group, the group first created just basic movements, so that was moving left and right with a fixed camera and then jumping up and down, and then later down the line we added the crouching effect as a team, and I then added personally for myself a blink mechanic for the dash, a blink mechanic for the jump, and then a special ability, and then punching and kicking it as well. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the lovely blueprint that I created for my dash ability for my character. Basically, it's just pretty simple. It's just a bunch of booleans, which is able to perform the special ability, and then a sequence of playing particle animations, and then hiding the character every few seconds to then dash forward and reappear once those particle animations play, and then at the end a punch is performed, and I'll show a clip of what that looks like right now. Okay, so here is the once again amazing jump ability that I made for the character. This again takes inspiration from the ability and the dash, and all it is once again just getting the location of the player, setting a boolean to allow them to jump, and then spawning particle systems at that location, hiding the character, and then spawning another particle system, and then hiding the character again, and spawning a particle system once they get back to the ground. And I'll once again show a clip of that right now. Okay, and here we have the dash, which is what the ability and jump took inspiration from. So this is simply just exactly the same as what the jump and ability does, but instead of holding W to jump or the F button to perform the ability, if you hold Shift and then press A or D depending on what direction you want to go, the character will blink, disappear, and then blink again and reappear in the location then dash to. Again, I'll show a video of that. And finally we have the attacks that the character can perform, which is the light and heavy attack, so aka the punching and kicking, and all this is playing an animation and bringing it to the mesh, and then waiting a certain amount of time for the animation to finish, and then stopping the animation itself. This is linked all to animation graphs, which we also set up as a team, and then the art side just plugged in their animations that they had made for the character. I will now show a video of what those punching and kicking animations look like. Okay, so now I would just like to talk about some of the contributions that I think I made, and some of the things I learned outside of the actual creation of this project. So every week there were team meetings to do with, you know, what the programmers or artists had to do within that week and what they had to get done for the next week. Now, within these team meetings, you know, all of the programs would get together and we'd all voice concerns that we had or ideas that we had, or we'd all talk about how far along we were and any issues we were facing, so we could all help each other out. Now these were really beneficial to the whole grand scheme of the project, because it enabled everyone to come together as a team and help each other out and allow for more progress to be made, especially if you were really stuck on something. So like when I didn't have my dash effect, I just asked if anyone had a just bare bones dash effect that they had that I could take and use and then modify for my own use, which then really helped me speed up my process for my character. Again, this was for everyone and I found it really useful and very good. And so with that, I think that's everything I wanted to say about this submission, so thank you for listening.